Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Abundance Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Janice Luke, and I'm accompanied by my co-host.
April Capri.
Hey, April, how are
Hi,
you?
Jen. Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. I know you've been busy with work and life be life and everything. I know that you're pretty busy right now. That's all
Tis the
good.
season. Tis the
You're right.
season. What that is?
Oh, you're
What
gonna
that
bring that up?
is? I love
You're gonna
it.
bring that up?
It's
Girl,
party.
thank you. That's my new tat I got. So it actually has the
Ooh.
initials of all four of my children. My four, well, two of them are men now, but I have four boys. So I still call them boys, but two are men right now. But yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
baby,
their
babies.
initials, and it has the scripture for being fearfully and wonderfully made in my mother's womb. So it's close to
Oh,
my heart. So my kids are my heart. So I decided to do that.
I love it. Shout out
Thank
to the
you.
boys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Salute.
it. So,
Pretty.
so without further ado, I know our guest is going to be pretty cool and exciting tonight.
Definitely far out. We have a guest that believes abundance means considering the impacts your daily decisions have on future generations. Using astrology and intuitive coaching, he supports decisions in both the boardroom and home life. Through a journey of self-discovery, he's learned how to understand their core motivations and values, becoming the magician of life. He now works with purpose-driven C-suite executives and entrepreneurs, helping them stay ahead of the curve and human consciousness. Utilizing sharp intuitive insights, deep astrology dives, human design, and gene keys. He aids clients in freeing themselves from emotional jail to pursue true desire in life. We have Eric Rosen. Wow, that's deep.
Yes,
Emotional jail.
I love
Woo,
it. Freedom.
heavy
Hey,
stuff.
Eric, how are you?
Hi,
Hey, lady.
Eric.
Oh,
Doing
Yeah,
well.
thank you for
fantastic.
coming on with us.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for tonight.
We are too. So,
True.
without further ado, tell us about your story. How did you get started with everything?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so basically when it comes to my journey, it kind of had a tale of two halves, kind of like that saying with the football game, like the first two quarters were different than the last two. I started off as a construction project manager, very left brain analytical guy, went to college for that, and then had an unfortunate series of events, things like job layoff, house fire. Was looking for a lot of answers, and so I actually found it in the form of a spiritual awakening, starting to study things like astrology, starting to go down this metaphysical path. I had an opportunity to actually go participate in what's called an ayahuasca ceremony over in Peru. And it just sort of launched me into this new way of seeing life. I started to awaken to things that were would have seemed crazy to me years prior, of like intuition and clairvoyance, and just really being able to intuitively sense where people were at, and actually being able to help them, to help coach them based upon a lot of experiences and challenges that I'd overcome in my life. And so just weaving tools like astrology and breath work and hypnosis, basically just to take my private coaching clients like to the other side of whatever the goal is that they're trying to get to.
I love
That's
that.
Yeah, that's
I love
wonderful.
that. And sorry to hear about the house fire. That has to be
Yeah,
extremely traumatic.
It was, I've had a few of those traumas throughout life, but
Oh, wow.
it's given me good medicine, if you will, to get to the other side, to see what it's like to actually heal that trauma that does get stored in the central nervous system, and will just like replay on a consistent loop, like a bad, rerun of a crappy sitcom. And to be able to do that, and learning my central nervous system has helped me to start to feel more calm and safe, where there's a feeling of abundance that I actually experience from within. Because actually, in the most recent challenge that I had in life, which was actually a romantic breakup. And I was, there was a lot of challenges financially. And when I was getting back on my feet, this was about 3 years ago, the spiritual message I kept hearing was that if I wanted to experience safety and stability in my outer life, I needed to experience it from within first. And so that started with healing any feelings of anxiety, even depression, just these feelings of angst, of uncertainty, of worry and fear that I felt inside.
Wow.
Wow, I can relate because I guess it's been about 3 years too, where I came out of a toxic relationship myself, and I've been on my healing journey as well. And I think I'm in a much better space with self-love and everything, and knowing that what happened to me wasn't my fault and things of that nature. So when you speak of like helping someone go to the other side, what does that mean exactly when you said the other side?
Yeah, basically, people come to me when there's something that they want, but the approach that they've been taken is not either working, or they're not sure really how to do it. For example, I just had a client complete a container where he was struggling with leadership in his relationship. Like, he was kind of collapsing into a lot of his boyhood, adolescent wounds, and kind of letting his now fiance sort of push him around. And it's not that he had to become, this like macho dominant masculine to make the relationship work, but learning how to like poise himself more. And so the other side for him looked like being able to be a more authentic leader in the relationship. And they also just opened up a holistic clinic together. So that was part of his goal, was to become more financially prosperous. He had witnessed his dad go through some really shock and trauma around money, where he had lost a business and they were like going bankrupt. And that was, he grew up in that energy. So that really put an imprint on him, that impacted him. So that's really it. It's just people come in with a challenge, and then whatever it is that they're working towards, I know how to like guide them on that metaphysical aspect of things, to see how there's ways to work just beyond the physical, understanding of things. Whether it's like, manifestation, using law of attraction, techniques to release the trauma, to release negative belief systems that may be preventing success.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge appreciator. I don't know if that's a word, but appreciator of holistic healing, like you were saying, metaphysical. How long did it take you to really get from that point to like, you got to hit rock bottom before, you get the shift? How long did it take you? Because I know my area is a struggle in discipline and just doing anything consistently. Like if it's meditation, doing it every day, or breathing, doing it for the whole 3 minutes or whatever it is. Like, how long did it take you to really get in a rhythm and pattern for you to start to feel the shifts?
Yeah, it's interesting because that still comes up, as a challenge for me. You and I were actually talking before the show started how we're both Capricorns, and so we're similar challenges. And so like for me, on a personal level, as it relates to the Capricorn piece, it's like, things just don't always feel the safest in terms of like the emotions of things. Like I don't feel the level of comfort that I want to feel. And so there's almost like this, just got to show up and do it, and honor the structure and the routine, and kind of almost like release the expectations of the results. Because what I found is that if I have expectations of how I'm going to feel when I do the discipline, it actually makes me be like, why am I going to do this anyway? It's like, it's almost like develops a sort of skepticism. So I had to like watch my attitude, towards these things, and actually sort of like get excited about it, to actually, be like, oh no, like this is good. I know that if I do this consistently, even if it's not the best meditation, or even if I sit down to do a journaling exercise and I feel like I'm just scribbling nonsense and like, why did I do that? That with consistency, that I will get something out of it in the long run. And even if I don't, that it doesn't feel like tangible, or like, like a spiritual breakthrough or more clarity, at least it's like starting to create the discipline, which that's a skill set in itself to just translate of like, oh, I did that for 28 days straight. So now I can apply that same level of discipline to something else. And then maybe that thing, even if the prior discipline or activity didn't yield me the fruit that I wanted it to, something else probably will.
Okay, so like, you find yourself like going back and forth to things like that, or you just have to develop that consistency over time to be able to stick with something, or do y'all,
Yeah,
It's the perspective change, right?
is it?
yeah, I think it's definitely that. It's what I've learned is that momentum doesn't discriminate, you know, positive momentum, negative momentum. So it's like it's actually really easy to do the discipline, but it's also just as easy to not do it. And so it's just like the perspective helps when it feels hard to get something going. You know, it's good. Sometimes it's just that feeling of like, you know, a rough night's sleep, and I don't feel like getting out of bed on the first time the alarm goes off, or it's like, oh man, it's, you know, we'll get off this podcast. It'll be after 9 my time. It's like, oh wow, yeah, I gotta go make dinner still. You know, just things that maybe I don't feel motivated to do, but it's like, okay, let me just inspire myself, especially for the deeper why. Like, why am I doing something? That's very helpful too, to like give it some meaning, give it some roots so that it doesn't just feel like I'm just like doing task and hoping that something happens from it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I read in your bio that you kind of help, like you can help businesses, well, two parts that I saw, that you help like business owners like become better leaders, and also uh just people in general being better leaders in their home life and family life as well. So each one, how does that look for each one for you? How do you help people do that?
Yeah, basically it's very similar, Janice, in that they the people that come to me, they're typically struggling with some type of challenge. And so it's showing them that they really do have the answers on the inside and helping them access that so that they can, you know, basically start to eventually like lead themselves and make better decisions that create the desired results that they're wanting to do. And so a lot of the times the way that it starts off is it's a private coaching client where they have like a personal challenge, but then once a trusted relationship is developed, that's when they will typically introduce me into their work environment to maybe like work through their business, through their team, because there's, you know, that deeper sense of trust there. And so the influence of them in like this leadership role of just making better day-to-day decisions for success. It's like the saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's like, and I guess the little geese too, where it's like it impacts the family in a better way, because we tend to, you know, be that the average of the people that we spend the most time around. So it's like if we raise our average in terms of like how we're leading in business to our families, that is sort of an ask for everyone else in the environment that we're in to raise the vibration as well. So it just kind of promotes overall success for whoever that quote unquote leader is around.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I agree. I agree with that too, because it raises the expectation for them to meet wherever you are or wherever you lead them to be. So that does make
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Definitely resonate with the raising the vibrations and frequencies around you, because you can be high energy or just positive and you're around a bunch of people that are kind of, you know, always in a negative space or kind of bring you down. You need people that are also uplifting so that you go even higher. I think that energy definitely compounds and grows. You said something about was it emotional jail? What is
Mm.
emotional jail?
Yeah, so this was a really amazing tagline that the astrologer that I learned from astrology from gave me the first time he did an astrology reading from me. And he said, bro, he said, you're here to free others from emotional jail to pursue true desire. And so when I studied that and broke it down, basically that's a fancy way of saying it's typically fear that stands in the way of us going and doing the thing that we actually want to do, to actually have the courage to do that. So emotional jail really is just all the different iterations of what fear looks like, anxiety, depression, sadness. Not that these are bad emotions, that I think they're all meant to be processed, but when we're afraid to have the courage to face them and actually face that fear and actually go, wait, what is it that's actually preventing me from going and pursuing that actual desired thing? Asking that person out, starting that business, starting the gym routine, whatever it is. And so it's actually going and like looking at what actually are the blocks. And so that's a lot of what I'm doing with my clients, is actually identifying what is actually the internal, usually subconscious block that's preventing them from having success. Because what I found is like we're our own worst enemy. Success is trying to find us, sometimes even more than we're trying to find success, ironically enough, because in these modern times, it's easy to get comfortable, especially now. There's a lot of energy astrologically right now to just start to do new things every day, just to change up the pace of what we're doing.
Wow.
Absolutely. So, um, when you bring in the astrology side of things, do you is it just like, I know there's different like signs like Capricorn, Pisces, and whatnot, but is there like an overall message in general that you kind of bring about, like in general, where is our society going? Or like you just said, it's going to where people are trying new things maybe, but um, how does that look for the whole, like in general? I'm not sure if I'm asking it correctly, but, but
Totally get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I do definitely look at like the collective horoscope of things, like, because there's layers to it, right? Like, to me, we're all one, we're all a collective consciousness. So we'll all experience something together in its totality, but then independently, we might experience it differently based upon what our sign is, or even our own, individual birth chart. And that's how it kind of differentiates from the more personal experience. But on a collective experience, the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of wounded ego. There's a lot of like wounded egos out there, people getting like really triggered, definitely relationship conflicts, imbalances. Um, I think there's a lot of seduction to want to almost like put a relationship first, or try to put peace and harmony in life in general first. But it's almost like we actually got to go to bat and actually take action and face the wounds and sensitivities where maybe we don't feel our best or strongest, to go like actually say, this is what I want, this is the action I'm taking. Really hold the vision for that, and when I say vision, I mean, being able to daydream about it, go into meditation, like really feeling the whole picture of what it is that we're working towards and wanting to experience, and seeing how much we can bring in those senses, especially the emotions of it, as if it's already happened as part of that manifestation process. And then I think it's just a lot of communication dynamics. I call it conscious communication. That's what it's actually called. I didn't coin that term, but it's like just being really careful to not point fingers at people is like is the biggest one, blaming, shaming others. It's seeking to understand the other person on the other side of the table. Seeing that there's a lot of judgment playing out right now. People have a lot of judgments, and so it's really just a call for compassion. It's a call for an understanding. We don't know the person's story, that maybe that group of people, or it's like, it reminds me of like the political thing. Like literally, Trump just got convicted. He's a convicted felon officially now, right? So it's like people might have all these ideas, and people that say it's bad, people that say it's good, and then people get into like conflicts and debates over this thing, and then they start to like dehumanize each other over a disagreement from someone that they've never met. And it's like, and then they forget that maybe sometimes when people get triggered in these conversations with these things happening out there, that it's like, oh wait, this person has a story too, like they have some form of pain too. And to actually seek to understand that pain and that vulnerability, I think, is what creates more personal human connection, where we can sort of like work together and sort of be the change that we want to see in the world, as Gandhi put it.
Excellently, but
Yeah.
I do think that especially social media in general, and other things in media, I feel like it dehumanizes the human experience so much to where we see so much, we're desensitized to somebody else's pain or somebody else's misfortune, or just like you said, like just them being who they are, and it's seems like one side against the other, and it shouldn't really even be that deep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, man, I just, this whole thing where people are so judgmental and I think it boils down to also just communication. Just talk to each other and just, boils down to how good is your communication? Are you communicating what you really need, what you really want, or are you just, being judgmental and just, assuming things for the other person? So that's really key, I think. Open communication. So, so when someone comes to you too, like, where does the astrology? Do you do readings? I mean, is that a thing that you do? Do you do readings for them, or how do you bring in the astrology when you help people?
Yeah, so typically, most times the first time I work with someone, it is an astrology reading.
Hmm.
I've been doing that for going on 6+ years now. That's kind of been the headliner, how people have gotten to know me and my brand. But then it's just still just one of the tools that I use for like the coaching, guiding piece of getting people to the quote unquote other side, as we mentioned. So it's astrology is great because I'm able to sort of use it as a roadmap, to get really clear on like what cycles is someone actually like going through. What are the positive things that are happening, what's been happening, especially showcasing what's coming, how to overcome any obstacles, any perceived challenges, and really just kind of help people more align with the influence of the cosmos so that their free will aligns with whatever that, I guess you could call it divine order, because I call it divine order because there's this joke that like the only thing that's certain on earth is death and taxes. That's like a really old timey joke. But the cosmos, the sun, the moon, the planets, they follow a very predictable pattern that never changes. And so it's like these ancient cultures, like the Egyptians, the Mayans come to mind. They studied it. There's so many other ones too, where they were just fascinated and seeing like what influence does astrology, what the cosmos have on human characteristics, but also the cycles that we go through as humans, the events on Earth, and even to the notion that it's already been widely accepted in the science community that the moon does affect the high and low tides of the ocean, and we're made up of somewhere between like 50 to 80% like water in our bodies. So it's like you ask any ER nurse, they'll tell you like, oh yeah, it must be a full moon. It's like when everyone starts acting crazy pants, basically. And so it's like it's using astrology as a tool to like get a pulse on like what's going on, what's coming. Like someone might come to me and go, hey, wanting to expand my business and I'm thinking about a move. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go and look and it's like, well, it doesn't seem like the move is a good idea yet, but it's put that in your vision. But right now, yes, do this thing with your business. Here's a couple of things that you can, do with it. Here's a couple of challenges that I see with it. And then they sort of walk away with their mind sort of blown because they're like, I just got so much insight and information. And then they have to decide if they want to do the DIY, do it yourself route and apply that, or if they want further assistance from me. There's other ways that they can work with me where I can help them, guide them further on that journey to help them get what they want.
Love
That's
that.
awesome.
Look, I want
Yeah.
to be nosy. What does this say for Capricorn? For Capricorn business.
It's really tough for Capricorns because it's like the polar opposite right now, where Capricorn's usually about the business. But right now, the karma, if you will, of like what to like move away from and release is actually in business. It's actually being really careful to not go into business and even business partnerships that maybe even wasn't Capricorn's own original idea, or feels like people pleasing or just trying to keep the peace. And then it's more going into the roots of like dealing with the basic necessities of our securities. Like it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is this really neat pyramid that like is like, what do we need as human beings first before we work our way up to other things like, you know, gainful employment or social connection. It starts with just the basics of like, you know, food, shelter, water, and then it like works its way up. And so it's kind of like that for Capricorns right now. And to let go of like old goals that aren't really part of who Capricorns are anymore. Just look at Tiger Woods. How many more times is that Capricorn going to try to win a Masters? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
That's crazy, and that's on point. And I wanted to, so I just kind of wanted to see how you did it. Like I've seen people that use cards. I've seen people that use other techniques. Like, does it just come to you, or how do you kind of?
I pull up the actual astrology wheel. It's like it looks like a crazy circle with it looks like hieroglyphics to anyone who's never seen it. That's what it looked like to me, because it's like you see this circle and then you see all these like symbols that are supposed to mean the planets, the sun, the moon. You see these lines going everywhere. And so just because I studied very deeply like what those things represent and what it means, like the difference between say someone that was born with Venus in Sagittarius versus someone with Venus in Gemini, and other components of like looking at that too. So it's like being able to intuitively, like I already know the basics, the technical pieces, and then intuitively I can actually basically channel kind of like psychic ability, but like to use that information to, you know, see where things are at, to see what's in someone's natal chart, what makes them tick, but then also what cycles they're going through.
That is so cool.
That's amazing.
It
Okay,
really is.
so I know we spoke in the pre-meeting, and you mentioned that the Pisces are like more family kind of family cookouts and whatnot. So, but do you have anything else like as far as business or anything like that for Pisces? Or and you can
Yeah,
reiterate what you said before as well if you wanted to.
sure. I mean, business is looking really good for Pisces right now. It's definitely being good, you know, still putting yourself, you know, out there, but it's also, you know, as we did mention, you know, before the show started, it's like it's deep nourishment, but it's like the nourishment almost looks like telling a good story in your own home in a very interesting way. Like one of the things I was doing in a horoscope was like, you know, it's like I have this water here, right? And so like this is actual scientific study that like if you like sing or play music like with your water or like to your plants, like literally they will respond to it. It will change the molecular structure that can be measured in the water. So it's like, you know, doing that with your water, watering your plants with that water. It's like really taking care of the home environment and just making it like sing, you know, like feeling like it's like the fields are lined with the sound of music or something, but like in your own home, you know, where it's like you're happy to come home. Like it feels good, it feels stimulating and positive, but not too like overstimulating, like stressed out, like, oh, I got clothes everywhere, or, you know, like I forgot to take the trash out and it stinks now, you know, things like that. And then building on top of that, what I mentioned was that, you know, the cookouts, you know, the family get-togethers, you know, having people over to be like, hey, come check out, come enjoy the same energy I created in my home for me.
Awesome. I love
Love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, just to clear, because I know it's a lot of misconceptions, and for me, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not very well versed in astrology outside of like zodiac signs, but I know and I can tell by what you're saying that it's extremely scientific and it goes back, you know, further than a lot of stuff that we know about. What is astrology, or I guess, you know, your area, your perception of astrology?
Yeah. I will say that I'll start off with saying that how the science community views it as a sort of a pseudoscience because it can't technically be proven. But I had a mentor, God rest his soul, he passed away this year, but he used to say that um, science is yesterday's metaphysics, meaning that like the time that it takes to mathematically prove things is usually quite a bit behind the metaphysical phenomenon for being able to experience something and see that it's real before it can actually be mathematically proven, essentially. So the way that I see astrology is that it's not like a belief system in the sense that like the cosmos have us like puppets, on strings, that it doesn't compel us to do something, but it does influence, it does incline us to maybe go a certain way. And so a lot of times with astrology, I'm using it to more showcase more of the probabilities, of what can happen because we still have free will, right? We can still do whatever we want. But there is this really interesting conversation that comes up though, if this idea that God speaks through the stars and this inclination of astrology, this divine order, like if we go against that, and then there is a challenge that we run up against, was that still free will? Because are we really free? Because now if we have pain and suffering because we went maybe against the grain of what astrology was suggesting that would be more beneficial to focus on, it's like, well, use the free will but then maybe created more hardship. And I've been on the side of that, even as an astrologer, even knowing I know I shouldn't do this, but gosh darn it, I want to go do that. And then I do it. And then I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? And so it really is being okay with like almost like a pivot of going, okay, I see this thing that I want to do, but intuitively I know it's not right for me or it's not working. And I feel something deeper in my soul calling me away from that to this other thing. And then it's like seeing, can we continuously pivot when we see ourselves going into that area of life that we're probably know we shouldn't go, and then go the opposite direction instead. And that's to me making the best out of an astrology cycle and being more successful overall.
Right. I
I've
kind
never
of,
heard it explained like that before. It's cool.
yeah, it makes sense kind of discerning whether or not you should make a certain move and knowing to make the better move and not make the wrong move, you kind of have
Yeah.
discernment in that situation. Um,
Yeah.
so uh, how can people like find you? Like, are you working on any projects or anything like that? Or like, how do you,
Yeah. The easiest way for people to find me is my website. It's astrology by ericrosen.com. So that's astrology and then BY, and then Eric is ERICROSEN. Currently, for me, outside of my private coaching, I do a little bit of touring. I go to some like metaphysical fairs. I'll be at the Body Mind Spirit Expo in Denver at the very end of the summer, that last weekend of the summer, and then I'll be at the Conscious Life Expo in LA. That I don't remember those exact dates, but that's like the February timeframe. So really, because I am also a Capricorn and because business is like not like the main focus, I'm trying to do my best to follow my own advice of the astrology and just still make sure I'm taking care of me, I'm taking care of my son. Um, and what I found is that the more that I let go of the control of the business piece, that's when things like show up easier. When I'm just like having fun creating, I do a lot of content on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, which all those links are on my website. So that's really the easiest way for people to keep up with any like new developments. Like if I decide to offer like a new group coaching program or like a free webinar. I'm not currently doing any of those offerings, but I've definitely done those in the past. It's not the niche right now.
awesome.
That's good.
So y'all be sure to connect with Eric and see he can help you out with your business or family life, you know. So that's awesome. I love that.
Definitely, or even just connecting and understanding self, I feel like is incredibly important, because you have to be centered and have your mind right to be able to do things right at home or at work or just in life, period. I feel like, and that struggle is it's a lot, you know.
It is, and then the fear factor. I said, yeah, that used to be a show, right? But anyway, the fear is the fear of things too. Is this? It can be very like debilitating, you know, because I struggled through that for a long time as well. So the fact that you're helping people work through those limiting beliefs and even fear, and to overcome that, I commend you for that. I think that's awesome. I love that. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Fear is a huge one, in the different forms that you said that it kind of manifests itself in was interesting too, because I never looked at or made a connection with depression and fear. But when you said that, I was just like, yeah, that is it. So speaking of manifestation, we have a couple of minutes left. Um, can we talk about how you would kind of help somebody who maybe doesn't know like where to focus, like they're just everywhere, right? Just there's so much going on in the world, things is crazy right now. Focus is at like rock bottom. You can't watch anything for longer than 6 seconds without getting bored. How would you help somebody manifest and identify what it is that they want, starting from ground zero?
Yeah, I literally like the most basic thing, like not even thinking, just like get out a piece of paper and just write down some ideas of something to go do that feels constructive. And then just look at what you wrote and see if there's one that excites you the most, circle it and just go out and do it. Because I'm a believer that God provides an automatic course correction. The astrology, all of it, it works in the fashion that it favors the action takers and the risk takers. So even if we're not sure that that thing, whether it's like that relationship or that job is going to be the end all be all thing, it's like just go experience it. You know, a lot of this astrology for the next year is like we can sit around thinking on the couch all day long about how we think an experience will go, but we won't really know till we go experience it. And so that in itself of just taking action to go do something is manifesting in itself, because now energy is moving, right? So we're, you know,
That
in environments where we can receive different perspectives, where we can have conversations with people, right? And so then it's staying open. It's staying open to listening to what others have to say. As I mentioned earlier, you know, understanding them. It's like we can all very much learn from each other, our different beliefs and perspectives, and no one needs to like have their nose stuck up in the air and feel like a know-it-all. That, you know, it really is that simple. And then even if someone's like they don't even feel like they have the energy to do that, they can literally just say to the universe, like, universe, show me a sign. Like literally show me a sign. I have literally used Facebook doom scrolling on my news feed as like a tarot deck before. Like, okay, I'm gonna refresh my feed, and the first video or thing that pops up, that's my sign that what I need to pay attention to right now. It works every time. So it's like we can be those magicians, which is manifesting is being our own magician. It's our own
got
magic.
it.
That's so
Getting,
cool.
yeah.
Well,
I love that.
awesome.
Thank you so much,
Manifest with
Eric.
Eric. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
you bet. Thank you.
Awesome.
and
Y'all have a
with that,
great
you guys
night.
for watching. Bye.
You
Absolutely.
too. Take care.
Bye.